The alien arena was not just a place of stone and metal. It was a temple of cruelty, built high above the ruins of Earth. Its walls glowed with strange blue fire, and every sound inside echoed like thunder. From the gates, humans were dragged in chains, their bodies thin from hunger, their eyes hollow from weeks of suffering. The alien crowd filled every seat. They were tall and twisted creatures, their skin covered with glowing marks that pulsed like fireflies in the night. Their voices shook the ground, chanting in a rhythm that was both music and mockery. They had come not for learning, not for peace, but for one reason only: entertainment through pain. At the center of the arena, humans were forced to kneel. The guards pushed them down with long staffs that sparked with electricity. Children cried softly, old men groaned, and the younger ones clenched their fists, but no one dared to stand. The announcer appeared above, his body shining like polished steel. His voice was sharp, like broken glass. Today you will see Earth's final gift to us. The screams of its survivors. The crowd roared in excitement. They slammed their hands against the stone seats, creating a wave of sound that felt like an earthquake. A gate at the far end opened. From the shadows, alien beasts crawled forward. They were massive, their eyes burning red, their jaws dripping with venom. Claws scraped the stone floor, sparks flying with every step. The crowd screamed in joy as the beasts circled the helpless humans. One beast lunged forward, its roar splitting the air. A man screamed as he was thrown to the ground, blood spilling across the sand. The aliens jumped to their feet, cheering as if they had just won a great prize. Another beast clawed at a young woman, tearing her arm, and the laughter from the stands grew louder. Yet, among the chaos, one figure stood out. A woman, bruised and bleeding, pulled a small boy behind her. Her body shook, but her eyes did not show fear. She glared at the beasts, then at the crowd, her silence louder than any scream. The aliens noticed. They pointed at her, mocking her bravery. Some shouted in their strange language, "Let her stay until the end." The strong ones always break the loudest. The beasts circled closer, their claws digging into the sand. The boy clutched the woman's hand and whispered, "Why do they do this? Why do they hurt us?" His voice trembled. She bent down, pulling him close. Her voice was weak but steady. "Because they think pain will break us. But they do not know us. We are not broken. Not yet." The beasts lunged again, but the woman refused to fall. The guards shocked her, forcing her to her knees, yet her eyes never lowered. The crowd laughed louder, believing her spirit would soon shatter. But in the cages nearby, where other humans were locked, whispers began to spread. A thin old man leaned against the bars, his voice low but filled with fire. "They think this is the end. But pain does not kill us. Pain teaches us. Pain remembers." The guards struck him down, yet his words traveled like a spark. Every human who heard them carried them silently in their hearts. As night fell, the games ended. The survivors were dragged back to their cages, their chains rattling against the floor. The aliens cheered, satisfied, already planning tomorrow's blood show. They did not notice the way humans exchanged looks in the dark, eyes glowing with something stronger than fear. Inside one cage, someone began to hum. It was an old Earth tune, broken and faint, but still alive. Others joined, one by one, until the humming became a chorus. It was not a cry of despair. It was a promise. The guards shouted and struck the bars, but the humans did not stop. Their voices grew louder, echoing through the arena's cold walls. The aliens thought they had broken Earth. They thought humanity was finished, a species reduced to nothing but screams. But that night, in the cages of the arena, something else was born. It was not weakness. It was not surrender. It was the beginning of vengeance. And in the silent space between screams and song, the galaxy's most dangerous truth whispered into existence. Humanity does not die easy. The cages of the arena were silent at first. Chains rattled every time a human shifted. Some lay on the cold floor, too weak to move, their ribs sharp under pale skin. Others sat with their heads lowered, their eyes empty after endless days of pain. The aliens believed the silence meant victory. They thought humanity had finally been crushed. But silence did not mean surrender. It meant something was waiting. In one corner of the cages, the woman who had shielded the boy still held him close. Her arms were weak, her body bruised, but she would not let him go. The boy's breathing was slow, his tiny hands trembling. He whispered, "Are we going to die here?" Her lips were dry, her voice broken, but her answer was firm. "Not today. Not while I still breathe." Nearby, an old man stirred. His hair was thin, his back bent, but his eyes still carried the fire of memory. He had lived through Earth's final days, seen cities burn, watched the skies fill with alien warships. He whispered to those who would listen, "They think torture makes us weak, but it makes us remember who we are. It makes us stronger." The guards heard him and struck him again, sparks flying from their electrified staffs. His body fell, but his words did not. They spread like embers, reaching the ears of others who sat in the dark. A young girl, her face streaked with dirt, repeated the words quietly, "Stronger." Another whispered back, "Not broken." And slowly, the silence of the cages was replaced with faint murmurs of defiance. When dawn came, the aliens dragged the survivors back into the arena. The crowd cheered, hungry for new screams. This time, the aliens forced humans to fight each other. Shackled, starved, and desperate, they were handed sticks and told to battle for the amusement of the lords. Some refused. They stood still, dropping the sticks onto the ground. The crowd jeered and shouted for the guards to beat them. One man was struck down instantly for refusing to fight, his body left in the sand as a warning. But even as the guards mocked, even as blood stained the sand, small acts of defiance grew. One woman threw her stick aside and lifted another prisoner up instead of striking him. A teenage boy, instead of attacking, sang an old earth lullaby under his breath, his voice shaking but clear enough for those around him to hear. The crowd roared with anger. They wanted blood, not resistance. They wanted screams, not songs. The announcer shouted, his metallic voice booming, "Break them harder! They must learn their place." Guards rushed in, shocking the prisoners, forcing them down, but the spark of defiance could not be erased. Even as bodies fell, even as whips cracked, humans refused to give what the aliens wanted most: fear. Later, in the cages again, the survivors tended to each other. With no medicine, no tools, they used their hands to press wounds, to share water, to whisper courage. One man tore strips from his own shirt to bandage another's arm. A mother fed her child the last crumbs she had hidden in her fist. The boy who had clung to the woman asked again, "Why do they hate us so much?" This time, the old man who had been beaten answered. His voice was rough but steady. "They hate us because we do not give up. They hate us because no matter what they take from us, we still stand. Even when we fall, we rise again. That is what makes us human." The woman nodded, holding the boy tighter. Around them, others listened. Their bodies were broken, but their spirit was not. That night, as the stars glowed above the arena, something began. A rhythm. Soft at first, almost a whisper. Someone tapped the bars of the cage. Then another joined. Then another. Soon the cages shook with the sound of humans beating in unison, creating a heartbeat in the darkness. The guards shouted for silence, but the rhythm only grew louder. It was not music, it was a message. We are still here. We are still alive. For the first time, the aliens hesitated. They had expected silence, despair, obedience. Instead, they saw humans chained and starving, yet refusing to break. One alien lord, watching from above, sneered to another. "Strange creatures. They suffer, yet they resist. Perhaps we should crush them faster before this defiance spreads." But another alien shook his head. "Let them resist. It makes the games more interesting." They laughed together, blind to the truth. Because in those cages, with every tap, every whisper, every song, humanity was changing. They were no longer just victims. They were becoming something far more dangerous. And though the aliens could not see it yet, every lash of pain was carving something unshakable into the human spirit. They were broken in body, yes, but in will they were unyielding. The arena slept under alien stars, its walls glowing faintly with blue fire. The crowds had gone, the laughter of cruelty replaced by silence. But inside the cages, humanity still whispered. Pain was everywhere, yet among the broken bodies, a plan was being born. Far away from the guards, hidden in the shadows of the cages, an old man pressed his hands against the dusty ground. He traced invisible lines, drawing symbols no alien could read. Once, long ago, he had been an engineer on Earth, a man who built machines that carried messages across oceans and skies. Now, in chains, he carried only memory. But memory, in the right hands, could be turned into a weapon. He whispered to the others near him, "Every cage has wires. Every guard staff has circuits. They think these things are only tools of control. But to us, they are doors. And doors can be opened." The woman who had shielded the boy leaned closer. Her voice was low, but sharp. "You mean, we can send a message?" The old man nodded. His eyes burned with quiet fire. "If I can touch the wires long enough, if I can connect just once, I can send something. A spark. A signal." The boy's eyes widened. "To who?" The old man looked up at the stars above the arena. His lips trembled as he spoke. "To anyone who still remembers us. To those who escaped the fall of Earth. To the humans who wait in the dark." The next day, the games began again. The crowd roared for blood. But the old man no longer looked at the beasts. His eyes studied the guards, the way their staffs lit with power when they struck prisoners, the way sparks jumped when the cages were locked. Every flash of light was a map, every sound of current a clue. At night, when the guards grew lazy and half asleep, he made his move. With trembling hands, he reached for the corner of the cage where the metal was cracked. Sparks burned his skin, but he did not pull away. The woman covered the boy's eyes, shielding him from the sight of the old man's shaking hands, but she whispered encouragement. "Hold on. Hold strong." Pain surged through him, but then there it was, a flicker of connection, a pulse of light that traveled through the alien circuits. It was small, almost nothing, but it carried something more powerful than any weapon. A signal. Far across the stars, in the hidden corners of space, a human listening post picked up a strange transmission. At first, the operators thought it was just static. But then they heard something. Faint, broken, but clear enough. A voice. A human voice. "They torture us, but we endure. Pain will not break us." The operators froze. For years, they had thought Earth was gone, its people exterminated. Now, through the static of space, survivors were calling out. The message was sent to the human fleet. Within hours, war councils gathered. Generals, soldiers, and refugees listened in silence as the fragments repeated. They heard the cries of children. They heard the groans of the dying. And they heard the promise, whispered by broken voices, "We are still alive." In the arena, the old man collapsed. His hands were burned, his body weak. But when the woman asked if he was in pain, he smiled faintly. "It's gone," he whispered. "The message is gone. They will know." The boy leaned down, tears in his eyes. "Will they come for us?" The old man coughed, his voice soft but filled with certainty. "Yes, and when they come, the galaxy will remember this night." The guards dragged him away, his body limp, but his sacrifice had already changed everything. Far away, in the darkness of space, the human fleet stirred. Battleships that had remained hidden began to move. Engines lit like stars, silent but deadly. Soldiers sharpened their blades, loaded their rifles, prepared their armor. One commander spoke only 3 words to his troops. "Extermination begins now." Back in the arena, the aliens celebrated another day of games, unaware that their cruelty had sent a fire into the stars. The humans sat in chains, but their eyes burned brighter than ever. They had seen the signal. They had felt the spark. The woman whispered to the boy, "They think we are alone, but the stars are listening." And in the silence of the cages, The survivors held onto that truth. Torture had not broken them. Pain had not erased them. Instead, it had lit a beacon. From the shadows of the arena, a signal had been born. And soon that signal would return. Not as a whisper, but as the roar of war. The human fleet gathered in silence. Out in the dark corners of space, where alien sensors could not reach, hundreds of ships floated like shadows. Their hulls were scarred from past battles, their engines dimmed to hide their presence. Yet inside, every soldier, every refugee, every commander burned with fire. The message from the arena had reached them. Broken voices of survivors, carried across the stars, had shaken every heart. They had heard the pain, the cries, the songs of defiance. No one in the fleet could forget the words, "We are still alive." The commanders stood around a long table glowing with holograms. Maps of alien systems flickered in red light. Planets, cities, fleets, all targets. But for a long time, no one spoke. The silence was heavier than stone. Finally, one commander, an old veteran with gray hair and eyes like steel, broke it. His voice was calm, but his words carried thunder. "They torture our people for sport. They mock our pain. They believe humanity is broken. But they are wrong. And now we will show them." He looked at every soldier in the room, his eyes sharp. "This will not be a war for territory, not for power. This is a war for memory. For every scream in their arenas. For every child who cried. For every city they burned. We will not stop. We will not forgive. We declare extermination." The words cut through the silence. Soldiers clenched their fists. Refugees wiped tears from their eyes. Even the youngest recruits, those who had never seen Earth, felt the weight of the oath. Across the fleet, preparations began. Soldiers polished their weapons, whispering old Earth prayers. Mechanics worked on engines, tightening bolts as if their hands carried vengeance. Medics packed their kits, knowing many would fall, but none would surrender. In one ship, a young pilot stared at a small photograph of his family. Faces long gone, lost in the invasion. He kissed the picture and placed it inside his suit. "For you," he whispered. In another corner, an engineer carved words into the wall with a knife. "We are the last. We are the fire." The fleet became more than ships and steel. It became the embodiment of every scar, every memory, every act of defiance that had survived Earth's fall. The oath spread beyond commanders. In every mess hall, every barrack, soldiers repeated the vow. For the tortured, we fight. For the fallen, we rise. For the broken, we burn. Extermination until none remain. The words echoed like thunder, uniting them all. Back in the arena, the survivors did not know what had been decided in the stars. But they felt something. The woman who shielded the boy whispered as she looked at the night sky, "They heard us." The boy's eyes lit up, though he did not fully understand. Hope was something he had never known before. Now it pulsed inside him like a heartbeat. The aliens, arrogant and blind, continued their games. They laughed at the pain, demanded more screams, and cheered louder each day. They could not imagine that far away humanity had already sworn their end. In the War Council, the old commander raised his hand, making the final vow. "This war will not end until every arena is ash, until every chain is broken, until the species who mocked us are gone. We are humanity, and we do not forgive." The council struck their hands against the table, sealing the oath. Engines roared across the fleet. One by one, the ships came alive, glowing like stars. The darkness of space trembled as thousands of thrusters ignited. A soldier watching from the window whispered, "We rise." The oath had been spoken. The oath had been accepted. The oath would become fire. And as the human fleet began to move, the galaxy did not yet know that its nights of laughter were over. The oath of extermination had been made, and humanity always kept its word. The human fleet moved like shadows through the void of space. Engines burned softly, silent and hidden, as if the stars themselves were carrying them forward. No trumpet, no announcement, no warning, The oath of extermination did not need words. It needed fire. At the center of the fleet, the old commander stood before his soldiers. His voice was low but steady, carrying through the ship like a pulse. Today, we do not fight for victory. We fight for memory. Today, we remind the galaxy that humanity endures. No mercy, no hesitation. The first strike begins now. The soldiers saluted in silence. There was no need for cheers. Their vengeance was deeper than sound. The target was chosen carefully. Not a battlefield, not a fortress. An arena. The very same kind of arena where humans had been tortured for sport. Intelligence had confirmed that thousands of aliens gathered there each night, watching the suffering of the last survivors. Tonight would be no different. The aliens expected screams. Instead, they would meet silence, followed by fire. Human ships slipped into orbit above the alien world. Cloaked in darkness, they waited until the crowd filled the arena. Below, the laughter of alien lords shook the stone walls, echoing into the night sky. They had no idea death was already standing above them. Inside the arena, the woman held the boy close. Another game was about to begin. The guards shoved humans into the sand, and beasts roared behind the gates. The crowd screamed for blood. But before the gates opened, the sky above trembled. At first, the aliens thought it was thunder. Then the air itself split open. From the heavens, burning light rained down. The first human strike had begun. Orbital bombardments ripped through the alien city. Towers of stone and glass crumbled into fire. The sky turned red as explosions lit up the night. The arena shook violently, dust falling from its high walls. The alien crowd screamed, not with joy, but with terror. From above, human ships unleashed precision strikes. They targeted guard towers, weapon depots, and the gates of the arena. One by one, the locks on the cages shattered. Chains broke, bars bent. For the first time, the humans inside were free. The woman's eyes widened as the cage door burst open. She pulled the boy to his feet, her heart racing. Around her, survivors stumbled forward, confused but alive. And then they saw it, the human fleet cutting through the sky, their banners burning bright. The boy whispered, almost in disbelief, "They came!" The woman's lips trembled, but she smiled. Yes, they came. The aliens panicked. Their soldiers rushed into the arena, but they were not ready. Human drop pods slammed into the ground like thunder, bursting open with squads of armored soldiers. Their rifles glowed, their blades shone. Their voices shouted only one word: humanity. The survivors cried out with joy, their voices echoing through the chaos. For the first time, the crowd's cheers were not for alien cruelty, but for human defiance. A squad of soldiers pulled survivors into safety, handing out water, pulling chains from wrists. "Stay behind us," one shouted. "You're free now." The woman gripped the soldier's arm, tears in her eyes. "We thought we were alone." The soldier shook his head, his voice hard as steel. "You were never alone." Above, human ships destroyed the alien fleets before they could respond. Missiles streaked across the sky. Alien warlords tried to rally, but their communications were jammed, their defenses torn apart. In the arena, alien nobles who once laughed at human screams now begged for mercy. But none was given. Soldiers dragged them into the same sand where they had tortured innocents. The oath was clear: extermination. The crowd that once celebrated human pain was silenced forever. When the fire settled, the survivors stood at the center of the arena, no longer captives but witnesses of justice. The old commander himself landed, walking among the broken chains. He looked at the survivors, thin, wounded, scarred, but still standing. His voice was heavy but proud. "Your suffering lit the fire that brought us here. You endured what no one should endure. And now, because of you, the galaxy will never forget what it means to be human." The woman bowed her head, holding the boy's hand. The boy, his eyes wide with new hope, whispered, "We are not weak." The commander bent down, meeting his gaze. "No, you are the strongest of us all." That night, the arena burned. Its towers collapsed, its gates shattered. Where once humans were mocked and tortured, only fire and silence remained. The galaxy's first lesson had been written in flames. Humanity did not beg. Humanity did not surrender. Humanity struck back. And this was only the beginning. The arena's ruins still smoked when the first whispers began. Alien traders who had survived fled into the stars, their ships trembling as they carried news across the systems. What they spoke was not rumor, not exaggeration, it was terror. The humans came back. In one sector, an alien governor received the reports. First, he laughed. He had always mocked humans as fragile creatures. Meat wrapped in soft skin, weak bones, and short lives. But when he saw the burned images of the arena, when he saw nobles lying in the sand, their towers turned to ash, his laughter died in his throat. His claws shook as he whispered to his advisors. If this is true, then death itself walks with them. Across the galaxy, fear spread like fire. Alien merchants avoided routes near human-controlled space. Soldiers who once bragged about torturing Earth's survivors now kept silent, their eyes darting to the shadows as if human ghosts followed them. In a distant capital, alien lords argued furiously. Some shouted, "We must crush them quickly before they grow stronger." Others trembled and said, "They already grow stronger. You saw what they did to the arena. If they can strike there, they can strike anywhere." The council chamber shook with fear, not pride. Every system had once believed humanity was finished. But now, a single strike had changed everything. In the refugee fleets, scattered humans heard the news too. For years, they had hidden in silence, too afraid to fight, living in the shadows of stronger species. But when they heard that humanity had destroyed an alien world, their hearts ignited. A young girl on one ship asked her mother, "Is it true? Did humans really burn the arena?" Her mother, eyes shining, nodded. "Yes, they are showing the galaxy who we are." Even those who had lost everything felt their backs straighten. Hope spread like wildfire. But in alien palaces, hope turned to dread. An alien emperor stared at the night sky from his balcony, his scales trembling. He whispered to himself, "We mocked them, we played with their pain, but we did not kill their spirit. Now they come for us all." His advisors begged him to stay calm, but he could not. He had seen empires rise and fall, and he knew one truth. It was not strength that toppled rulers, it was vengeance. And humanity's vengeance was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Meanwhile, in the human fleet, soldiers prepared for the next strike. They sharpened blades, loaded weapons, and trained in silence. But they also listened to the news. They knew their attack had shaken the galaxy. For the first time, their enemies feared their name. One soldier smiled as he polished his rifle. "Good. Let them fear. Fear is the first step before death." Another, younger recruit, asked, "Do you think they'll run?" The veteran shook his head. "Fear does not make them run. It makes them desperate. And desperate enemies make mistakes. We will burn them all the same." In the ruins of the freed arena, survivors stood under the stars. The woman held the boy's hand, watching the human fleet above. Her voice was quiet but filled with pride. "They finally know. They finally see us." The boy looked at her, eyes wide. "Do you think they're afraid of us now?" She smiled faintly, though her face was scarred. "They should be." Alien broadcasts spread warnings. Avoid human-controlled zones. Military councils held emergency meetings. Some species sent spies to learn humanity's strength, but none returned. Each disappearance fed the growing legend. Humans were not weak survivors. They were shadows, hunters, death in the dark. The galaxy had once laughed at Earth, calling it a death world only because of its harsh storms and deadly beasts. Now they used the word differently. Death world no longer meant the planet. It meant its people. The old commander of the fleet stood before his council again. His voice was heavy with determination. "They are afraid. Good. But fear is not enough. We swore an oath. We do not stop at fear. We end them. Every chain, every arena, every empire that mocked us, gone." The council struck the table in agreement. Their voices one, Extermination until none remain. Across the stars, every alien who once thought of humans as prey now saw something else. Not prey, not slaves, not broken survivors. They saw the storm that had risen from pain. They saw vengeance walking. They saw death carrying a human face. And in every shadowed corner of the galaxy, one thought echoed louder than any scream. The humans are coming. The galaxy trembled in silence. From one end of the stars to the other, alien rulers locked their doors and whispered in fear. Markets were empty, palaces guarded, fleets trembling at their borders. The name human was no longer spoken with laughter. It was spoken with dread. And then came the last strike. The human fleet did not come with warning. It did not arrive with parades or speeches. It arrived in silence like judgment itself. Ships black as the void moved through alien skies, their engines burning like falling suns. Everywhere they went, arenas fell. Everywhere they struck, chains shattered. On one world, humans freed thousands of captives, burning the grand arena to dust. On another, they leveled entire palaces where alien nobles had celebrated human suffering. In system after system, their message was the same: we do not forgive. Alien soldiers fought desperately, but it did not matter. Humans did not stop. They did not retreat. Their oath carried them forward like fire, and fire consumed everything in its path. In the center of the fleet, the old commander stood before his people. His voice carried across every ship, every soldier, every survivor. They thought pain would break us, but pain became our strength. They thought chains would hold us, but chains became our weapons. Today we end this war not with survival but with judgment. Humanity does not kneel. Humanity does not forget. And humanity does not leave enemies alive. His words echoed, filling every heart with fire. Soldiers raised their fists. Survivors wept with pride. Even the boy, once trembling in the arena, now stood taller, holding the woman's hand, his eyes shining. On the final day, the human fleet surrounded the capital of the alien empire. Their towers touched the sky, their fleets filled the orbit. Once, this sight would have been impossible to face. But not now. The commander gave the order. Burn it. And the sky itself obeyed. Missiles streaked downward, tearing through palaces. Fire swallowed the city, and the ground shook like the world itself was ending. The alien emperor, trembling in his hall, looked up as the roof collapsed above him. His last words were whispers. We should never have mocked them. When the smoke cleared, nothing remained but silence. Across the galaxy, the news spread. The empire that had once tortured humans for sport was gone. Entire fleets had been erased, entire rulers destroyed. Survivors were freed, chains shattered, arenas turned to ash. The galaxy had no choice but to accept the verdict. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was judgment. On the ruins of one arena, survivors gathered. The woman held the boy close, both staring at the stars where human ships glowed like guardians. For the first time in years, there were no chains on her wrists, no fear in her heart. The boy whispered, "It's over." She looked at him, her scars glowing in the firelight. Her voice was quiet but firm. For them, yes. For us, it has only begun. The boy tilted his head. What do you mean? She smiled faintly, eyes hard. We are more than survivors now. We are the warning the galaxy will never forget. In the human fleet, soldiers celebrated in silence. There was no drunken joy, no wild cheering. Only a deep, heavy pride. They had kept their oath. They had given the galaxy its verdict. The old commander stood alone at the viewing deck, watching the stars. His reflection showed the lines of war, the weight of countless lives. Yet his eyes were steady. A young officer approached him. "Sir, what do we tell the galaxy now?" The commander did not hesitate. His voice was as sharp as the oath itself. Tell them this: humanity does not bow. Humanity does not break. And if ever again they try to turn our pain into their sport, we will return. And next time, there will be no survivors. And so the war ended not with treaties, not with surrender, but with silence. The galaxy had laughed once at humanity, mocked their weakness, cheered their pain. Now, they whispered one truth in fear. The humans declared extermination, and they meant it.